Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us on our Youth Career Night. Tonight is going to be an amazing night. Can you all hear me clearly? Let me hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Great.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you all for taking the time to be on this Youth Career Night. Tonight is going to be amazing. We are going to have a great conversation around various career topics. And before we go ahead, if your friend hasn't joined in yet, why don't you message them, send a quick message to say, hey, you don't want to miss what's going to happen here tonight. It's going to be powerful, really powerful. So I want to encourage you, send a link around, invite 2-3 people, say, join in. This is going to be an amazing discussion for your life. You don't want to miss whatever we're going to talk about here tonight. My name is Cyril. I'm the youth pastor of Living Word Assembly of God Church. My lead pastor, Reverend Isaac DeGraft Techi, has his full support for this program here, and I am so excited that we can have some of these conversations. I want to start our career night tonight with a prayer and commit it into the hands of the Lord. The Bible says the steps of every person is ordered by the Lord. The steps of a good person is ordered by the Lord. We want to commit our path here into God's hands, that the Lord will be with us and guide us. So why don't we bow our heads as I pray? Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this time together in your hands as we have conversation about our lives. You said that before we're clot of blood in our mother's womb, you knew us and you called us by name. And I have no doubt everyone that is in this call here tonight, you have a purpose for their lives. You have a reason why they are here on earth. And Lord, as we have conversation about our career paths, we ask that you will illuminate our understanding and help us to see our purpose and the reason for which you have brought us on earth. We thank you for the speakers who have made themselves available to share their experiences, to share their paths in life, that we will all learn from it. I ask that you will speak through them to each and every one of us and help to recourse our lives to your purpose. Thank you, Lord. In the name of Jesus, we have prayed. Amen. That is amazing. Thank you. We have a very tight schedule tonight because of the amazing lineup. And I'm actually very excited, I must say. Before we go ahead, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to acknowledge all the youth leaders who have been working with amazing team. You guys are just wonderful. Thank you for all the hard work that you've put in us putting this program together. I want to mention your names, guys. I truly, truly appreciate you. Anel, Nick, Beatrice, Belinda, Beverly, Hadassah, Irina, Isaac, Michaela, and Nathan. And I believe that many of you that are on this call will soon be joining us because we want more people for this work. Thank you for all your hard work. I also want to thank Mami Dihia. She's one of the speakers for this Career Expo. She's been a very instrumental in helping to put this together. Mami, thank you. I appreciate all that you do. Before we get into what we have unpacked or yet to unpack for tonight, I had a very enriching conversation with a long lost friend of mine, I should say, a brother that I have known for many years now. He is a medical doctor. He is a neurosurgeon. And I had a chat with him briefly. I said, Doc, can you please hop on to this night and sort of spice it up for us a little bit before we get in? Let's have conversation about how you got into where you are. And he's already at work now. He's at the hospital and he might get a call very soon to go work. But he was very willing to come on briefly and share with us before we get into the heavy duty stuff for tonight. So if you will allow me, I would like to give a chance to Dr. Albert Isaacs. Doc, are you on the line here? Right, I think he is just joining in. He's just joining in.
No, for real, this is Auntie Sonia's even talking in this. Auntie Sonia's even talking.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, he just messaged me. He's joining very soon. But whilst we wait for him, I am just going to put on the screen our session tonight, which is the Career Expo. And I'm going to let you see the amazing lineup of speakers that we have. Just give me a moment here whilst I put the speakers on the screen. I am so excited that they could make it tonight. We have joining us tonight Irene Duakesi. Irene is a project manager, and as well, she is a founder of, let me just enlarge it so I can see it on my screen. Give me a moment here. Irene is the founder of and director of Rise in STEM. Rise in STEM. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I mean, you have to be smart to be able to be a founder and an executive, not of a gaming platform, but of science, technology, engineering, and math. That's amazing. I had a brief chat with Irene prior to tonight, and she is brilliant. You know, I'm a science student myself, and so I love science professionals. So Irene would be on. And then we also have Mami Efuadi here. Mami is a policy analyst at the Government of Canada. She's a clinical research analyst at the University Health Network, and also a founder and executive director of Power of Love Foundation Canada. That's amazing. Mami is loaded. She knows stuff. Okay, she is very good. Those of you who were at a live conference last year, Mami was one of the speakers that enlightened us on mental health. She's very loaded. And then we also have Timilien Oyewu. Timmy is a lawyer, and he is an accessions advisor at Scotiabank Canada. He's a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, founder of the School of Reasoning and Rhetoric, and a co-founder of the Lagos Model United Nations. This is just a snapshot. There are a whole lot of other things Timmy is involved in, but we couldn't fit it all in our flyer here. I am so excited to have Timmy to speak with us. And last but not the least, we have a very close friend of mine, Sonia Richter. Sonia is a registered nurse at Brampton Civic Hospital. Amazing. And she would give us more insights about what she does at the hospital as a registered nurse. And of course, you have myself, Cyril here. I wouldn't be talking, but I will be facilitating the whole evening for us. Thank you all for joining. Now, may I ask my able speakers, if you don't mind, to turn on your video for me so that I can see you and be able to spotlight you. I see Isaac on the call now. Thank you so much, Doc. I know you are a very, very busy man, but I'm glad that you were able to join us. He's joining us all the way from Alberta. Hi, Doc, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Isaac?
Sorry, did you?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can. Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to fix my my headphones there.
Right, right. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. How y'all doing?
It's been a long time. Look at you with all the beard, man. I'm younger than you.
Well,
That's great.
COVID has closed down a lot of things, so
It
I'm
has.
hoping for the barbershops to open so we can all look a little more decent.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, Isaac, I just introduced the speakers I have for tonight, and I'm so excited for tonight, really. And for all of you that are on, this is going live on YouTube as well, so that a whole lot more can watch after. But I know you're busy, so I kind of snuck you into the program here to say, please talk to us before you are paged for your next surgery that you have to go and do. So you have right now we have 32 participants on the call now. All of them young people, right? And more are going to join, and more will watch this video on YouTube later. I've known you for a while. I knew you whilst you were trying to get into medical school, and then after everything you've gone through into whatever you're doing. Could you quickly tell us, help us to understand what it is that you currently do, okay, and your current job title? What is it that you're doing? Help us to know who you are, and then tell us how you got there, and what is there for young people to learn and to know to get there. I'm going to track you. You have 15 minutes or so to talk. So please unpack things for us, okay?
All right. Well, thank you for the invitation. It's really an honor and a privilege to be talking to such a vibrant group, and I already see by names and by faces many of the people that have helped me on this journey. I think just looking, I can see Sonia, Nana, you're there. Let's see, just to give a shout out to most of the people that I can see faces on the thing right now. There's a lot of you, and this is dedicated to all of you because really none of this would have been possible without your input and your help. In terms of what I do now, I would rephrase that. I'm actually in my I'm the chief resident of neurosurgery here at the Foothills Medical Center in Alberta, Canada. And what that means is that I'm at the tail end of my training, a very long 6-year training in neurosurgery after medical school. And what the chief resident does is that you're responsible for the entire service of neurosurgery at this hospital. We run a census of about 80 patients, and I try to see all of them within a span of an hour every morning before I go to the operating room. So it's quite a busy schedule. We work as a big team here, including residents of many levels, nurse practitioners, nursing staff, allied health, including physiotherapy, occupational therapists, respiratory therapists. And then once we've left the ward and gone into the operating room, we work with nurses, we work with porters, we work with unit clerks or administrators who help us make all this run smoothly. I can probably talk about what I do by telling you how my day starts. My day starts typically by 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at the hospital by 5 o'clock in the morning. Um, you know, get ready, see patients, and then by 8 o'clock, I'm in the operating room. And oftentimes we just operate all day with little breaks here in between, and uh, tend to finish around 6 p.m. Then I see, run the list or round on patients again. And if there are things to be tied up, I do that. And I get home around 6 or 7 p.m. So it's what I do. I really enjoy it. I wouldn't have it any other way, because I think it's a major privilege for people to trust us and give us the opportunity to look after them at their moment of need.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah, push it.
and how I got here is maybe a little more unconventional compared to most of the people that are on the call today, because as you would recall, I was actually born in Ghana, so I grew up, spent of my time in Ghana, and then I moved to London, England, spent some time there. Then I moved to Canada in 2006, which is when I met most of you. And since then, it's been a path along this journey. I did my undergraduate at the University of Carleton in Ottawa. Um, and then from there, I got into medical school at the University of British Columbia. So I moved from Ottawa to Vancouver. And then after 4 years of medical school, I decided to pursue neurosurgery, which is a 6-year program that I've been doing. So you may be asking, well, if you put it all together, it doesn't make sense. How come you're still doing it? Well, ideally, I started in 2014, so I should have finished in this year sometime. But in the middle of my residency, I also was very interested in basic sciences. So I went to Washington and I did a PhD. And thanks to God, I was able to do 2 PhDs. So I have 2 PhDs in addition to whatever I do now, and it helps me do some of the science that also helps augment the daily treatment that we provide for patients. So that's been sort of my path. Is clearly unconventional, and it's come with a lot of sacrifices and what God has seen us through up to today. If I was to sit down with any of you to talk to you and you ask me if I'll do it again, I would say absolutely. I'll do it all over again. It comes with a lot of sacrifices, but we get the strength every day to do it, and I
Wow.
wouldn't have it any other way. It doesn't mean that if you're interested in this career or this field, you will have to go through the paths that I went through. There are some sacrifices that have to be made, and there are some battles to get through. But once you get through, the path you take is on your own. My classmates who went into family medicine, for example, they graduated and became full-time doctors in 2016, and I've been practicing since. So whatever specialty you decide to do will determine how long you have to do it for. Now, I know there are many years of schooling in the group of people, so I will just give a blanket statement, and then I will talk later about some of the nitty gritty of what to do. But essentially, the biggest challenge, in my opinion, is getting into medical school to begin with, and that means that you need to really be on top of your game, be on top of everything, in your peers, in school, in sports, in arts, in music, in volunteering, in leadership. And there are these things. They may sound like check boxes, but I think that there are things that define you as a person, and make you suitable for the job, because it's a lot of sacrifice, and to do it in the first place. There's among you, Sonia and everyone will tell you that to just even think that you want to do it, you need to really reassess and think that, am I really willing to devote this much time and dedication to looking after people without getting anything back, for yourself. So you need to demonstrate that altruism. And so medical schools tend to look for these things. And also for the gruesome nature of the training, then you will also have to demonstrate resilience, to whoever is going to admit you into medical school. And the way you demonstrate that is by showing a track record that you are indeed resilient. It's a science, but it's also an art. So, you'll have to be able to show that you have some artistic experience in you. And that's when the sports and the music and those things come into play. And then with the altruism, for me personally, what I did was, or what I put on my resume, was mostly the things that I did at church in Toronto, which was really instrumental in convincing people that, look, I don't only care about myself, I care about other people too. I played music in the church, as you know, so that was also the part of the art. And most of it gave me the opportunity to also volunteer with you, in many aspects of life. So that all coming in to help. And then the biggest thing of all, after you've demonstrated that you can do it, you also have to show that you can resist whatever can be thrown at you, right? So again, back to the resilience, and the way you demonstrate that really is being a competitive activity, and then having ways that you de-stress, or ways that you're able to handle tough situations, having hobbies, and enjoying life as it is, because you're growing, and you need to enjoy life as is. And then when all this is said, I think that anyone to even look at your resume, or to consider you at all, you need to demonstrate some academic aptitude that is above your peers. Which means that if everybody in your class is spending 6 hours studying, you may have to put in that extra hour or extra couple hours, just so you can be a little better at what you do. There's nothing more rewarding at knowing what you're doing, and being able to do it better than you would anticipate that you could have done. And so you need to take your studies seriously. I wouldn't put any stress on anyone in saying be an A+ student, but I can say that do the best you can. Like, give it your absolute best, because the competition is stiff. I remember in my year, there were over 2,000 applicants, and 230 of us got in. And out of the 230, there was only 12 of us that were not from the province of British Columbia. So, which is designed that way, that they only take a few out of province people. So you really have to be on top of your game, and that's what makes it. And then there is a medical college, college application tests. So the MCATs, which most people write to get into medical school. And you will have to study for that as well, to be able to succeed. So I think I will end there, and now you can maybe direct me in some of the other questions that I haven't answered yet, and I can probably answer them.
Wow, that's a lot to take in, Albert. You really have taken an unconventional path here. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. One question that I would ask you is, I know you said you went to school, you schooled in Ghana and then came here to further your education and so forth. Have you always known that you would be a doctor?
Actually, it's a yes and no. I mean, when I was growing up, like many people, if you asked me what I wanted to be, I'd said I'd be a doctor, but I had no idea what that meant or what that entailed. And then as I grew up, I actually was not interested in medicine. I was interested in engineering. And when I started at Carleton University, I was actually an engineering student. I started as a civil engineering student. And then in my second year of civil engineering, I had to take a science course for some reason. And my neuroscience professor, who became a friend of mine, was the one that got me interested in science. Then I said, oh, I was actually talking to Gloria, and she said, so what did you really want to do when you were growing up? And I said, you know what, I thought I was going to be a doctor, but I'm doing engineering now, and this is it. And that kind of sparked that thoughts back in my mind. I remember it so clearly. It was a drive in 2015 that we took.
Wow.
And then I thought about it, and then I switched from engineering to health sciences, and that's the beginning of the journey. So no, it wasn't. So it's never too late to change your mind if you've been doing something else, or you think you're interested in something else. If you decide that this is what you want to do, I would say really reassess it, and if you really really want to do it, the sky is the limit. Everything is achievable.
Wow, everything is achievable. That's that we have you as a testament of that. I think I really need to connect with you one-on-one for like a whole hour to just unpack your journey. There's so much we need to draw from you here that our program here tonight won't allow us to. But um, anyone watching tonight and listening, keep your eye on our page, keep your eye on our YouTube channel. We will have a session with Dr. Albert for him to go deeper. In fact, one of the things, Doc, that I would want to unpack from you is how to discipline yourself to study. Because I mean, I know all those things you're talking about, health sciences, engineering, those are not easy stuff, right? And to have done that and then gone to medical school and done 2 PhDs along the way, I mean, that's like some kind of discipline that we all need. And so look out for our channel, people. We will connect with Doc and then unpack a lot more from him. Thank you so much, Doc. I don't know when they're going to call you to go do stuff, but as long as you can hang around, we will be happy to have you and throw questions at you when we get to the questions point. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I will mute myself and probably take a phone call, and then if I'm still here, I will be happy to talk
Great.
after. Thank you,
Great.
and thank you, everyone, and thank you for the chats. They're very inspirational, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Really appreciate him coming on. Viewers, if you've just joined us, this is Career Expo with Living Word Youth Church here. It's not just for Living Word. This is an expo night for every young person that you know. So if you know someone who is not on this, just send them the link or send them this YouTube link if you're watching this after the event, and tell them to watch it. We have an amazing lineup of career people who are already in the workforce, who've gone through the ranks, gone through the system, and we want to learn from them how they got there, what challenges did they face along the way, and how can we young people also get into those career areas. Of course, these are not the only career options. We will be having more and more Career Expo, but this is one of many. Now, it's my pleasure really to introduce to you the speakers that we have. I have already done that, but I'll quickly run through their names here as I put them on the screen. I'll start with Sonia. She's just right on my screen here. Sonia is a registered nurse at Brampton Civic Hospital. Sonia will be talking to us from her perspective, how she got into her career. Welcome, Sonia. Thank you for coming on. Can we hear your voice, Sonia?
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Great, great, great. And then we have Mami to hear. Mami is a policy analyst. There's so much about Mami to know. I would let her tell you all of that. But one thing I want to say about Mami is that she has a passion to see young people excel. Thank you, Mami, for coming on to our Career Expo. Can we hear your voice, Mami?
Thank you, Pastor Cyril, for having me. Thank you.
Great, great. And then I'm very, very honored to have Timmy on the line. I mean, the first time I met Timmy was when we met preparing for this program, and he just won my heart with his sincerity, his genuineness. And one thing that Mami told me about Timmy that blew my mind was that he actually went viral when he got called to the bar. Now, if you don't know, we're dealing with a celebrity here. We're dealing with someone who is very popular. He's a lawyer by career, and right now he is working at Scotiabank and has amazing things in his plan that he would unpack for us. Timmy, welcome to Youth Career Expo.
Thank you very much, Pastor Cyril, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. And then we have my own Irene, my fellow science person that I'm so passionate about here. She is into science, technology, engineering, math. I love it. Irene, thank you for coming on to this show here tonight, Career Expo. So glad to have you. Can we hear your voice, Irene?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you all. So this is how tonight is going to go. We're going to take turns and have each of these amazing speakers just share for like 15 minutes, similar to what Doc did with us. Share your path. How did you end up where you are now? In fact, I mean, first tell us where you are and tell us how you got there and anything that we should know as young people in trying to determine our career path, some things along the way that will be good lessons for us. So let me see who I want to start with. Give me a minute here. Who should go first? Probably Irene. Irene, you're going to go first. So let me make you have the screen all by yourself and tell us everything you want to tell us about you and your career.
So I did create a little PowerPoint to walk through. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, let me make you a co-host. You should be able to share.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And you can see it, right?
Yes, we can see. Excellent.
So hi, everyone. As you know, my name is Irene Dugokesi. I'm really excited to be here and share my journey, and I hope some of my experiences are motivational for you, and I hope it helps you kind of think more about your own personal journey. And so just a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Toronto, first generation Ghanaian Canadian. I went to high school in Etobicoke, so Father Henry Carr, and I graduated in 2012. And when I was in high school, I always kind of had an interest for science. I wanted to go into medicine, specifically pediatrics, just based on my younger brother's experiences growing up. And so I went on to pursue a bachelor's of science. I graduated in 2017. I'll speak more to this a little bit later. And then I completed my master's of science in sustainability management in 2019. And currently, I work as a project manager at Across Boundaries. So Across Boundaries is a mental health center, and we specifically support racialized communities exclusively and provide just a wide range of services for mental health, addictions, and just other social supports. I'm also the founder and director of Rise in STEM, which I'll speak to a little bit later. And just some fun facts about me. I love nature walks. I love birding. I love to bake. I really enjoy knitting, and currently I'm trying to learn French. And so my undergrad experience was at McMaster University from 2012 to 2017. As I mentioned, I pursued a Bachelor's of Science. It was an honors in life sciences. So it was very a broad program, which allowed me to take many different types of courses. So my major was life sciences, but I ended up minoring in psychology and sustainability because I took a lot of electives in those areas. So my early years, my courses were specific to life sciences, so like biology, chemistry, physics, calculus. But in my later years, it was more so anthropology, African history, personality psychology, environmental sciences, and those just other social sciences. So at MAC, I was very involved on student campus life, just because I really needed to find community. It was my first time living away from home. I was quite young, and McMaster at that time was predominantly white. I feel like it still is, but I'm noticing the Black student body is growing there. But it was really important for me to be involved and find my home at MAC. And so these are a few of the things that I got involved with. So the African Caribbean Association, I was part of the executive team as a secretary. And essentially we just had different events, workshops, discussions for African and Caribbean students. I also helped to start the McMaster Womanist. So this was a space for women of color, Black women predominantly. And this was just us finding, there was lots of women clubs, feminism clubs, but it was centered around white women experiences. And so we started this to kind of provide a space where Black women on campus, off campus could connect and center our experiences. I was also part of the women's varsity football. It was really important for me to stay active, and I've always kind of wanted to learn how the game worked. And so, and the fun thing about going away for school, I had roommates, and so those are my roommates at the bottom. And I was able to also gain a sense of independence while living at home and having to live with other people as well. And other groups I was involved with the Aspiring Black Physicians of McMaster. So that was a space where Black students who want to go into medicine to get supported, as well as the McMaster Africans. And so at McMaster, like I mentioned, I really did have an interest in medicine, but as I took more classes outside of the sciences, I realized that, healthcare is more than medicine. It's about other aspects like our environment, the food that we eat, our access to different types of food, to education. And I learned this through my global experiences. So I was able to do some biodiversity and conservation research in Honduras. And so this is in Latin America. And this was my first time traveling outside of Canada for the first time. And I was doing things like insect research, habitat research. I even had to create a fire. We had no access to internet or anything. So I was able to kind of learn more about myself and get more connected with nature. So this is where I kind of got my interest in bird watching, especially because in tropical countries like Honduras, the birds there are very, very beautiful. And so, yeah, I got to have that experience. I also was able to volunteer at an Indigenous reserve. Through my work at McMaster, or through just my experience at McMaster, I got more aware about social justice and what that means in terms of colonization. And so I was just kind of, I got more interested in learning about Indigenous history because we weren't necessarily taught that. And so I was able to volunteer for a month at a reserve in Victoria, British Columbia. And so this was a really, really eye-opening experience for me to see the conditions that that Indigenous people live in and just their experience and the history that I was never once really exposed to. And then towards the end of my my undergrad, I was able to attend an African Youth and Governance Conference. And this was actually in Accra, Ghana. And so before this time, I only went to Ghana probably like once when I was a child, so I didn't really remember. So it just felt like my first time going back home. And it was a really, really great experience because it wasn't just African Ghanaian leaders that were there, it was folks from across the continent. So I got to meet people from Kenya, South Africa, Somalia, just around the continent. And it was just really, really eye-opening to learn more about how governance works in Africa, how policy works there, and being connected to having a more global perspective on healthcare. And again, that made me kind of see things in a different lens. And so then I went on to do my graduate studies at McMaster University at University of Toronto. So this was from 2017 to 2019. And I studied a Master's of Science in Sustainability Management. So this is a quite new program. And essentially, we were studying how social issues, environmental issues, and economic issues are connected. And the management piece was allowing us to bring a more business perspective to these issues. So for example, like big retail companies and their operations, how is it impacting the environment? How are people that work for them or in the community are impacted, and whether profits are kind of outweighing the environment and community. So this work was allowing me to help balance all of those issues and having a more broader perspective on health. And I was also able to learn about economics and other areas that I was not necessarily exposed to, but does have great connections to healthcare. And so in my master's, I was able to produce 2 major projects, which was my research paper. I got to publish this with the Wellesley Institute. And this work really helped me, I guess, grounded me in policy and research and healthcare. And I was able to kind of see my interest in that area and actually gain skills in writing and actually doing the research. And as well as with TELUS Health, I was able to learn about how technology and health are interconnected, because before this project, I thought TELUS just served internet and phones, but they're actually quite integrated into our healthcare system. They're the largest distributor of electronic medical records, and they help support with insurance and all those other things. So I was able to kind of see how technology and health are connected, and it helped me kind of realize that interest as well. And so again, this kind of helped me tackle or open up different opportunities, because it broadened my knowledge base of the things that I was interested in. And so my student life at U of T, I tried to get involved again as well here. So I was part of my program, so the MSCSM Student Executive Council, as the external affairs person, so kind of supporting our partnerships and collaborations. I also joined the Black Graduate Students Association. So this was for master's and PhD students that identified as Black. And part of this work, we were able to kind of work with MPP, Faisal Hassan, and support a bill that allowed for more youth jobs across the city, which got passed. So that was also exposure to how policy works in real life. And I was able to witness and contribute to that. And also we attended Harvard University. So I attended the Black Policy Conference. And so this was being exposed to the American school culture. And I was able to connect with other academics doing similar work as me or interest in me. And fortunately, I was able to also connect and meet with Alicia Garcia, who's the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement. And so now, where am I with my professional work since I graduated? After I graduated, I realized I didn't speak to my struggles really in my journey, but there was plenty. And I knew it helped me realize that like a lot of things I was struggling with, my peers weren't necessarily struggling with, especially with my master's. I realized I was the only Black student in my cohort of over 30 students. There was 2 cohorts, so it was over 70 students. And even in my department, there was only 8 of us. And when I spoke to other students, they were saying the same narrative that were in engineering and tech and math. And so because I had so much experience doing community building and I knew how much those groups really contribute to my success, I felt the need to kind of do more to support young people's success so that they could be more exposed to these different fields. Like I was learning about technology and health, and these were things I was not familiar with when I was in high school. So Rise in STEM, we're a new organization. We started in 2019, and our aim is to just increase representation of Black youth in STEM by providing workshops, mentorship, and different events. And I also work at Across Boundaries, again, as a project manager, supporting, providing food security and mental health supports. So essentially, we provide fresh fruits and groceries, hot meals, COVID-19 support, so like PPE, helping people navigate the social assistance programs like the government supports and that sort of thing. So if anybody on the call here knows somebody, you just have to live in Toronto, but might know somebody who could use additional support, you can also feel free to connect with me for more information. It's free supports, and I kind of help connect you to those food sources as well as any other mental health support. And other things that I'm doing to support my professional work at U of T. So since I finished school, I went back to kind of pursue a French certificate, but I'm doing this at my own pace. So I took a class last semester. Right now, I'm not, and I hope to continue in the summer. I also applied for a research stipend, so I was able to do some work around machine learning, which is technology essentially in healthcare. And currently I'm part of a Leading in Social Justice Fellowship, which Mom as well is participating in with me. And so to wrap up, just some of my reflections is academic development is so important. And when I say academic development, I mean just building your knowledge. Whether you're in school or you're not in school, it's just really important to keep your mind going and learning more, because as you broaden your knowledge or your scope of the area you're interested in, you can find more job opportunities, but you can also find things that really speak to your interest and allows you to become more of an expert in it. So this doesn't mean being a full-time student. It could be just attending workshops, attending events like this. It could be, like, again, those fellowships that I joined, or just taking those random courses. And personal development is also very important. So in terms of being more engaged in your community can help you become more aware of your interests, more aware of the experiences people have around you, which can help you tap into, be more aligned in your pathway, but also be more confident in your pathway. Because as I became more aware of my interests, I became more confident in what I was doing. And networks and relationships are all very important. Community is what got me through. And so if you don't have community, if you don't build relationships, especially with your peers, I remember somebody told me once to network across, don't network up, because often your peers are who's going to move with you. And so it's really important to grow. It's really important to develop strong bonds with your peers. And so as you guys all move up, you guys can support one another in that journey. And so, yeah, that's the end. Thank you so much for listening. You can take down my email if you have any questions about my experience, or you just want to connect. I'd be happy to speak further.
Wow. Thank you so much, Irene. That was amazing. Thank you. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about yourself. Now, if you've joined, this is Youth Career Expo, and we're going through some insights of different career paths, okay? And once we're done, we're going to go into a breakout room where you would have some one-on-one time with each of these amazing career professionals. Now, let's go to the next expert here. Mami Dihia, I call her my big sister. Very, very eloquent young lady. I won't take the wind out of her sail. Mami, please tell us about your path.
Thank you very much, Pastor Cyril. I would like to share my screen as well. My PowerPoint is not as fancy as Irene's, but I'll try to make justice of it. Okay, 1 second here. Is my PowerPoint visible?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Okay, so good evening, everybody. And I just want to, first of all, say a big thank you to Living Word Assemblies of God Church, to you, Pastor Cyril, and your amazing team for putting together this exemplary career expo. I truly believe that is going to be transforming and inspirational to the lives of many youth, not only in Toronto, but across board. So, as Pastor Cyril introduced, my name is Mami Efwadihie, and I am a policy analyst with the Government of Canada. And today, my presentation is something I specially titled Journey to the West. And if some of you might know what Journey to the West is, it was actually a Chinese movie that we watched a lot growing up in Ghana. And through this story, I just want to tell you how my journey to the West as an immigrant, young teenager has brought me to the stage in which I am now. So I have thank you, but the most important thing I want you to remember is a quote from Muhammad Ali, which says, and this is my favorite quote, that if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it. This quote has personally kept me going in my academic and personal life to know that, as Dr. Isaac said, that whatever you put your mind to, you can do it, and the sky is the limit. So as I said formally, I'm a storyteller. So I'm just going to tell you a story about my life succinctly and as brief as I can. So come on the journey with me. So as you can see, I've been a fighter since very young. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, to both my parents, Amanda Mensah and Mr. Ateng. So as I said, I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and then I schooled in Ghana as well for about 13 years before migrating to Canada in 2007. And then when I came to Canada, it was very interesting because I came, and this is how short my hair was. I came short hair, no hair on my head, with a very thick Ghanaian accent. You know, when I'm talking, you know that, oh, this girl, dear, she just came off the boat. The ship just dropped her. And as a result of having short hair and a very thick African accent, I was bullied every single day at school. I mean, my friends or my colleagues will mock me, they will laugh at me, they will say things like, go back to Ghana, this is not, you think this is Ghana and you can do anything you want. And it really, really affected me immensely. To be honest with you, I hated school. There were points in my life where I will actually pretend that I was sick just so I don't go to school, just because I endured so much bullying at the hands of my colleagues in school. However, I had to learn resilience. I had to learn to adapt to this new culture in which I find myself. So I successfully graduated from elementary school. As you can see, my graduation picture is on the left. And then I proceeded to go to high school, which was Michael Powers St. Joseph's High School, with my graduation picture on the right. And I happened to actually take the International Baccalaureate program, which is the IB program. So this is a program that a few actually high schools have scattered around the Greater Toronto area, and normally is a program that is designed for students that are very intelligent. So I had the pleasure of also being part of that program during the final years of high school. And then after high school, like everyone else, it was time for university. So, you know, just like every typical African, I wanted to be a gynecologist. I wanted to be a doctor. And I remember really pondering over this deeply. And I said, you know, I think when I look at myself, doctor really suits me. You know, I look at my face, I look at the way I'm eloquent, I can talk with people, I'm personable. I think I'll be a doctor. And then my beautiful mother, who's in this picture with me, said, Mama, why don't you consider venturing into public health? And I said, Mommy, Pa, you too, what is public health? You know, at that time, around 2012, public health was not as popular during that period. So I had no idea what public health was. And she said, no, when I look at you and I see how you are and the way you relate to people, I think public health is where you need to go. Well, guess what? I thought I knew it all. I thought my mom was old-fashioned. She was a cake and she didn't know what she was talking about. So I said, you know what? I got this. I'm a big girl. I'm going to undergrad. I want to take health sciences. I want to become a doctor. Well, you guessed it right. My 2 first years of university, I failed my courses miserably. I failed to the point where my school said, listen, we need to actually get you out of the program because you are just a failure. So interestingly, they gave me 2 options. One of them was you can do a program in community health sciences, which is a 3-year program, and you're done. You don't get any honors. Or we have a public health program in our school that you can take. Ladies and gentlemen, Brock University at that time was the only university in the whole Canada that had a Bachelor's of Public Health program. This was the program my mother had advised me to get into even before starting university. But because I thought I knew it all and I thought she didn't know what she was talking about, and I had my whole life path planned, I went 2 years doing a program that ideally God had not destined for me. But God being so good, I was able to finish this my Bachelor of Public Health program in 2 years instead of 4 years. So I completed my Bachelor's of Public Health program. And like all undergrad students, I thought I was going to be making 6 figures. I was going to be balling, buying a Rolls Royce, buying my first Bentley. Well, no. I was very confused. I did not know what to do. I was in a state of severe confusion because during my undergrad, I had been told that, the moment you're done your bachelor's, you're going to be earning money. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I don't mean to discourage you, but that's not how life works. Normally, after undergrad, there is a process, and I'm going to talk about it more later in my presentation. So when I finished school and finding a job became quite a struggle, I decided to go to Ghana. And this was where everything turned out for me. I went back to Ghana and I volunteered at the Tema General Hospital. And if some of you might know what it is, that's one of the biggest hospitals in the Tema municipality. So interestingly, there's actually a story behind that, which in few minutes I will share. I was there one day, I had gone to walking around the community, and literally the Holy Spirit told me to go into Tema General Hospital and visit your public health department. So I walked in there not knowing anybody. I mean, I just came from Canada. I don't know anybody in Tema General Hospital. And lo and behold, the moment I entered the hospital, I met a church member. She looked at me and said, "Mommy, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, I just came to check out the public health department." She led me to the office of where the public health department was. Then she left and turned around. I remember I knocked on the door the first time, no response. The second time, no response. But I could hear people in the room talking. So I said, me too. I was giving it the Ghana knock, not the Canadian knock. So I knocked the third time. And the lady sitting inside opened the door as though I was a thief coming to steal something from her office. And she said, "Yes, what do you want?" And before I was able to get a sentence out of my mouth, she slammed the door in my face. I stood there in awe. I said, a whole bugger like me came all the way from Canada to Ghana to have a door slammed in my face. Okay, fine, no problem. So I turned and I went home and I told my mom about the ordeal, thinking she was going to comfort me and say, "Oh, you know what, no problem. Everything is fine, leave it to God." She looked at me and said, "We're going back on Monday." I said, "Mommy, did you not just hear the story I told you? The woman just slammed the door in my face and you want us to go back?" She said, "Yes, let's go back there." So lo and behold, Monday came. We went to the hospital. We saw another nurse who was very nice, and she was the one that granted me the opportunity to intern at the Tema General Hospital's public health department. During this time of 3 months, I interned in diverse departments within the public health. I was at the disease and surveillance department, reproductive and child health, where on the right, they actually trained me on how to administer vaccinations and injections to pregnant mothers and children. P.S. I am not a nurse. I'm just a public health student, but they provided me with that hands-on training. I also had the pleasure of working, or I should say interning, with the HIV/AIDS unit, where they trained me on how to provide pre and post counseling to HIV/AIDS patients, on how to test people for HIV, on how to break the news to people that they have HIV. So it was in Ghana that I knew that, okay, public health is where my heart is, and it's where I need to be. And with that situation where the lady had even slammed the door, it was a life lesson to me that when a door gets slammed in your face, you don't just sit back and say, oh, you know what, it's not God's will. You go back and you knock, because the Bible even says, ask and it shall be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened. So that situation really reminded me of that scripture. So after my internship, I came back to Canada, and after working and going through all that process, I applied for my graduate program, and lo and behold, approximately 3 months ago, I graduated with my Master's of Public Health at the University of Toronto. So as you guys can see, the trajectory of my life just began from me not wanting to be in public health, my mother advising me to be in public health, and that God in himself, in his own wisdom and omnipotence, just guided my path, where all my academic and professional experience have been tailored in the field of public health. So before I even graduated, actually a month before I graduated with my Master's of Public Health, I landed a role as a policy analyst, where, you might ask, with the Public Health Agency of Canada. So it was a huge shock to me, because most people would tell you that getting into the government space is very, very difficult. But God being so good and his favor being so strong, I was able to land a role where I am currently working as a policy analyst with the Mental Health for Black Canadians initiative, which is where I enjoy it. I completely really love what I am currently doing. So I just want to leave you with one message. If there's anything you took from my trajectory of life and the challenges I encountered, is the importance of obeying your parents. I know most of us youth are here. We have our own plans. We want to choose the type of programs we want to get into. But I just want to use my life as an example that your parents see further than you do. And when the Bible literally says, obey your parents, God, being omniscient, knows what he's talking about. And he knows that our parents can guide us and lead us in the path that we do not go astray. Sometimes our parents can be very iffy. They can be weird. They can be, they sometimes think they know it all, which they do. But I just want to use this to encourage you that allow your parents, who God has placed in your life, to lead you. I disobeyed in the beginning, and I'm sure if I didn't disobey, everything would have been smooth sailing for me for my undergrad. But it was also a lesson that I learned, that it's very important to heed to the advice of our parents. I know most of us probably are in undergrad or in high school, and we're in the process of making decisions. It's expedient that you do not take that decision on your own. You sit down with your parents, have a conversation with them. I know sometimes it can be hard in the African context, but try as much as possible to do so. And the reason why I'm saying this is because of one of Isaac Newton's most famous quote. He says, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." I repeat, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Whose shoulders are you standing on? Are you standing by yourself, or you're standing on the shoulders of your parents? Your parents are giants that God has placed in your life to be pillars, so that you are able to achieve the goals and the dreams and the desires that God has for you and has purposed in your life. But if you think you can stand on your own without standing on the shoulders of your parents, that is when you will fail miserably and you are indeed going to fall. So I know some of you might say, oh, but I don't have parents, or I'm not that close with my parents. My parents do not really understand this whole Canadian educational system. Well, that's why you have spiritual leaders in your church. And I know Living Word Assemblies of God is very blessed to have Reverend Isaac DeGraft and his wonderful, amazing wife, Mama Olivia. You also have Pastor Cyril, who is not just Joshua's and very spirituous, but he's also very academically inclined. He's also very knowledgeable about the labor market. And the reason why I say this is, even when you read the Bible, it doesn't just talk about honoring and obeying your father and mother. It also tells you to submit to spiritual authority. So not just your father and mother, but spiritual authorities are also very important. So if you're here, you're confused, you're worried, you feel like, okay, my parents are not really knowledgeable and not understanding when it comes to the educational system, or even when it comes to the professional, how things work in the labor market and professional world, you were blessed to have these spiritual leaders in your life who can guide you throughout the course. And even I just want to back what I just said with the spirit, with the scripture from Proverbs 15:25 that says, "Plant fail for lack of counsel, but with many advices they succeed." Other versions say in the many of in the multi in I don't want to misquote it, but it's basically saying that when you have advisors and counselors around you, that is when you prosper. Your counselors are not necessarily your career advisors at school, because those people, they're another story for another day. But your counselors are your parents, your spiritual leaders, people who ideally want the best for you in your personal, in your academic, and in your professional life. So it's highly expedient that in this decision making in your career and even in your education, that you are submitting to an authority who has gone before you and can be able to advise you on planning the trajectory of your life. And the other thing I wanted to leave with you, especially for most youth here, is that life is a process. You will not have it all figured out at this moment. Most of us, even our parents, do not even have it all figured out. It's a process, and it's a learning process. So even if at this age you still are not quite sure, don't give up on yourself. With time, things will be clearer to you. You will begin to understand. So don't give up in the process. Just keep on going and understand that your trajectory of life is ideally a process. And also, although our parents, again, can be iffy, can do some things comme ci, comme ça, just understand that it's very, very expedient to always honor and submit and heed to their advice. Because as I said, you can only see further, you can only achieve your goals if you're standing on the shoulders of giants. And I want you to remember the last thing I want to leave with you is, in all things that you do, your spiritual, your mental, academic, professional life, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then definitely you can achieve it. So thank you very much for listening to the trajectory of my life and my presentation. Once again, my name is Mame Efwadi here. Feel free to connect with me via LinkedIn or you can send me an email at my address presented. Thank you very much.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Mami. Now, you see what I meant by saying that she's very eloquent. But by the way, I don't know how I found my way into your presentation, Mami. We have to talk after that. I saw myself on the screen. I'm like, what am I doing there? Well, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing your path. And I hope you guys are taking down notes and having some thoughts going through your mind, making some decisions. Don't worry, we'll go into a breakout session where you would have some so that you can have one-on-one conversations with them. Well, we are going to move on, and I am going to have Sonia speak to us about her career path. Sonia has been a very close friend for many, many years. I have known her going down this path, and I joke that when she started making the money, she has not been giving me my portion. So we will talk after this, Sonia. We'll have that one-on-one conversation. But it is my pleasure, Sonia. Please take us down your career journey. Help us understand what we can also learn from you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And thank you again, Pastor Cyril, for this opportunity. I was a bit hesitant because you know how shy I am. And the worst of all in front of camera and so many people, but it's a privilege to be here tonight with all of you. Thank you so much. Being in nursing has been very rewarding, but the beginning and the start was not so great for me either. I came to Ghana back in '96, and right off at high school, I went into college. And starting in college was because I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. And my dad was the one that pushed me into nursing, but my passion was actually in arts and design. And I was good at arts to the point where my art pictures were posted in the school hallways and stuff, and was very much into design. But my dad was focused on being in a career that I will always have a job and never have to worry about being sacked or moving from job to job. And at that time, I thought he was bothering me, and I was very annoyed with it. But looking back, it's actually been a great journey. And I did 3 years at Hamburg as a diploma of nursing. And just at the end of my 3-year at Hamburg was when they made nursing a mandatory degree program. And that was summer of 2003. So being in that situation, I had the option to go start work full time, but I took a year off to do other stuff in terms of getting my foot in. So it was through agencies and stuff. And from 2004 to 2006, I did my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing at Ryerson. And God being so good, it's like you always have plans in your head, but for me, everything I plan never go the way I plan it to be. It's like God always has something totally different for me. And even though I had to go into those nursing homes and those temporary work field, it actually helped me in my nursing degree. Very much so, to the point that even when I had to do my clinicals, I was getting paid for clinicals when everybody else in the class had to do clinicals as co-op, as part of their course. But I got the privilege to work full-time, get paid, and use that program as my clinicals for my final year at university. And I worked at Mount Sinai Hospital, also through agency, because nursing is a very broad area. Each department is a specialty on its own, that once you get in, there are certificates to obtain and certificates to maintain while you're in the department. So branching into, I stayed with a women's and children's agency, where they were sending me to Mount Sinai. So I got to work in the labor and delivery section. I got to also work in the postpartum section to kind of figure out where I want to be in this program. And even though Hamburg co-op programs was very great as well, in terms where they have you experience 6 weeks in different departments. And then you get to choose your last consolidation in a department of your choice, but always not guarantee that you're gonna get the department that you really want to work in. But in terms of being at Mount Sinai, it was a great experience. And then I moved to Brampton Hospital in 2007 when the new hospital opened. And I've been there ever since. In terms of work as a nurse, it's very rewarding. It can also be very challenging. There are days you're going to be crying. There are days where you're going to be very happy. And there is always a saying in nursing that nurses eat their young. And I got to experience that the hard way. And it's not so much of being bullied, but there are people who think the younger ones always needs to take the dirtiest job. And you have senior nurses that are always giving themselves easy assignments and then passing the heaviest workload to the younger nurses. And there are days where you just want to, you sit in your car and first thing you want to do is just cry before you get home. And you don't want to go back to work the next day. But like Mami said, you have to build resilience, and you have to keep in your head your goal and your achievement, what you want to do, where you want to be in the future. And you want to embrace those challenges, because embracing those challenges builds you up and makes eventually you become an expert in your field. And that is where I am today. And I'm very enjoying my job as a nurse in women's and children. It's when you get into nursing, you have to want it. You have to want to be there. There are people that dropped out of nursing right from the program, first year, second year, third year. I've met nurses that spent a few weeks on my unit and never came back again. Because it can be, every department is different. Our obstetrics can be very demanding, where sometimes you have people that want to like punch you or want to like squeeze your hand because they're in so much pain. But through it all, you have to be there. You have to be supported, and you have to find ways to de-stress after your shift. And you can't keep everything in you. Sometimes trying to be very compassionate and caring for others, you tend to bear their burden, you tend to bear their pain. And I've been through situations that I've always wanted to give my number to the patient, to stay in touch, to help continue to make sure they're okay and to be moral support. But that's something that the profession does not allow us to do. Work is work, and you're not supposed to interfere with your personal life as well. Because to be frankly, I did that one time and I ran away so quick. But you find ways to help people. Nursing is a great work because you work, like Dr. Isaac said, it's a multidisciplinary team. Is not just you, you're working with physicians, social workers, nurse practitioners, occupational therapists, everybody. So being part of a great multidisciplinary team, you get to have great support. So you're not alone. And that's where I'm gonna end it there. I will share more during the breakout rooms, and if anybody has questions, we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just talking and I was on mute. I was saying that I thought I knew a bit about nursing, but the little you shared tells me I don't know at all anything about nursing. Wow. We'll have to talk more about nursing here. People, you are on the Youth Career Expo. So far, it's been a blast. I mean, I'm just blown away with everything that's been shared here so far. If you're just joining in, too bad, you've missed a lot, but we do have this going live on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and get everything you've lost. We are moving on. We have a lawyer who is going to tell us his career path. How did he get into what he's doing? Timmy, a famous guy. If you don't know him, then you are not on earth. Yeah, this guy is famous. Timmy, tell us about who you are and how you became who you are.
Thank you very much, Pastor Cyril, and thank you all for having me. First of all, I'd like to clear the controversy. I wish I was as famous as he says, but I'm hoping to get there someday. There's a story about how that happened, but that's further down the line in my general talk today. First of all, I'll start with my name. My name is Timileyin Oyewo. Some of you might have some trouble pronouncing that, and as you can tell, I'm an immigrant. I've had to shrink my name from Timile, from Olua Timile actually, to Timile, to Timmy, and now they call me Tim in my new office. So my next office, it'll be just T, but we thank God for his mercies. So yeah, I was born and raised in Nigeria, actually. Yeah, I was born and raised in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. I spent majority of my life there, and I relocated to Canada less than 3 years ago. So I would say that the story is going pretty well so far. I'm a lawyer, and I've been practicing I'm entering my 5th year at the bar now. So it's half a decade at the bar, and I can tell you that time flies, and God has been faithful. So how did I get into this career path? I would say that different factors contributed and pointed me to where I am today, and I'm grateful for each and every one of them. In my first year of, I was born and raised into a home of academics, actually, because my father is a professor of law, and my mother works in the military, and she was a guidance counselor when I was born, but she's worked her way up. She was the vice principal. She was different things in the military school, but she was in the academic setting regardless. So you can see, born to a professor of law and somebody in the military was quite the disciplined background, because I was raised by real no-nonsense people. So while some people didn't know what they wanted to be in their late teenage days, by the age of 4, I was already getting the question, what do you want to be? So what's your plan? So by 5, I already had a career in mind. I wanted to be an aeronautic engineer. I wanted to be an astronaut because I was very, very intrigued by space. But, if by the age of 5, I knew that science was not for me, then you can tell that, maths has been dealing with a lot of people from very early. So it didn't take me long to be like, I'm not going to be doing all the maths that is involved in that profession. So I wanted to be a farmer, because by the time I was born, my parents were not always, of the highest financial means, but I'm the last born in my family. So by the time I was born, I met them at a better financial stage than my siblings. So they sent me to a nice primary school where, a bricklayer looks dignified, a plumber looks, even in Africa, because if you're African and you were raised in those societies, these are not professions you want to do there. But they sent me to the kind of primary school where you say, oh, a bricklayer. So I wanted to be a farmer because at the time, the president of my country, President Olusegun Obasanjo, was a farmer. And he was actually more of a military man than a farmer, but they sold him to us as a farmer. And I was like, I like this man. I like the way he's always in charge. I want to be like him. I want to own hectares of land. But the reality finally hit me that this is not a career path of, great success unless your great-grandfather is passing down land to you. And then I wanted to be a pastor, but that was also a short-lived career path, because I determined that at that stage of my life, at least, I was not the most honest child. So I felt like I'm always telling lies. I don't think pastors lie. I don't lie as much anymore, I promise. So I wanted to be, and then by my final year of primary school, yes, primary 5, primary 6, I wanted to be a lawyer because, I used to hear the phrase, lawyers are liars, and I was like, okay. I'm joking about that, but I thought that, lawyers were very eloquent people, and I was quite an eloquent person from a young age, and I got along with people very well, and I determined that, if you're in Africa, if you're born in an African setting, it's usually being a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or one of those big name professions. They don't want to hear you study something like communications or all those nice specializations we have today. So being my eloquent, communicative self at that age, like, this guy, you like talking. you're a lawyer. Since you don't like maths, you're a lawyer. And that was, it kind of sat with me as well at that stage. And then from then on, from primary school to secondary school, it kind of stuck, even though during my secondary school days, I got more inclined into music and I wanted to be a rapper. And like mommy said, listen to your parents, because me and my father, we've gotten along for a majority of my life, except for the phase where I thought rapping was the career path I wanted to go to. And, you know, I used to write down lyrics and my peers were impressed by me. They were like, yes, I'm going to be on TV one day. You know, I'm going to win that Grammy for Nigeria. It didn't happen, but, you know. But yeah, there was that phase of my life where I thought I was going to be a rapper. I was going to be this hip hop thing because, you know, books can be frustrating. Books can be challenging. I have 3 degrees now, and I can tell you, it's been quite a challenge. But I'm grateful to God for strengthening me to overcome the challenges that have come my way. And by my final year of secondary school, I filled out on the form that I wanted to be a lawyer. And since then, it's been you know, one thing after the other that has elevated me. So I wanted to be a lawyer from secondary school meant that I started excelling from then on, right? That's not the story. My first year of university, actually, so we have a 5-point grading system in my faculty. And, you know, to achieve a first class, you have to finish with a 4.5. And in my law program, and on average, we admit 450 students into my program each year. And only each school has an accreditation they can send to law school. So only 250 out of that 400 in a set will be sent to law school. And while there are 400 in their first year, in their second year from direct entry and diploma, another 150 are added to them. So out of 550, half of them will not make it to their final year and they'll be cut off. And, you know, this is a challenge to anybody who is aware of all this information. So from your first year, which is supposed to be the easiest year, because your first year is when you're not doing law programs. So my program is a 5-year program. Your first year is the year you're not doing law programs. You're doing, you know, nice and easy things like English, you know, nice and easy stuff. And that's the year you're supposed to kill it, get a 5.0, get a first class. So you set yourself good. Well, at that stage of my life, I was still in my rapper phase, in quote, where I was rebellious, I was unserious, I was getting myself involved in a lot of things that, you know, young teenage boys, especially teenage boys, can be very headstrong. They can think they, you know, they want to go the different path. And I was in that phase of my life where, you know, things were that way. And my first year of university, I scored, you know, the worst grades I got in my university days were in my first year of my university, which is supposed to be the easiest phase. So my father came into my room at the end of my first semester where I scored my worst grade. And he was like, you know, I didn't force you into this thing, because my father is a lawyer as well. And, you know, when your father is a lawyer, you're studying law, everybody's like, did your father make you do it? But I'm the last born, and I'm the only one in my family who decided to study it. My elder siblings didn't do it. So I always tell people, if he forced me to do it, he would have forced the other people to do it. It was my decision. So he's like, you know, I didn't force you to do this program. Why are you performing this way? And, you know, he gave me all sorts of challenging talks. And I would say I was privileged, because in the African setting where there's misunderstanding between the parents, the first port of call is discipline by, you know, physical discipline with punishment, cane, violence. But that was not always my experience, because I was raised by a lawyer. He had a sense of justice where we would try and talk things out, and he would try and, you know, see things from my own perspective, and then we'll talk it out. And then I would say that that's an excellent way to raise a person, because it no longer is just force of cane in your mind. It's reasoning and appealing to reasoning that, why are you doing this? Why are you following this path? So we had that talk, and then I challenged myself. In my second semester, I boosted my performance, and I started, and then I would thank God for what happened in my second year of university. In my second year of university, I got involved in the Mutin Society of my faculty. That's the society that gets that sends students for different kinds of competitions. It trains them for different things. And, you know, people were like, okay, this guy, you have a talent in speaking, because for my first year, I was already going for different competitions and I was performing reasonably well. So you have a talent as a speaker. Why don't you join the society? I joined the society, and then I was like, you people are involved in a lot of local things over here, but how about on the international space? What are we getting ourselves involved in? So my first year in that society, we decided to get involved in a conference competition known as the National Model United Nations. And, you know, when we said this, the budget for that competition for all of us, for each person involved, was about 700,000. 700,000 naira, which translates to quite a few dollars, but obviously not $700,000, but it was still a substantial amount of money. And before I said, many times people had tried to go on challenges like this and they didn't succeed. And so when we said we were going to do it, people laughed at us, they mocked us, they said it wasn't going to be done. And I will tell you this, the first time we said we wanted to do it, guess what? We failed. There were 8 of us in my first year of university. We said we were going to go for this conference. We said we raised less than half of the money. So in my second year, we said we were going to go for this conference. We were going to go for this conference again. We were going to go in international exposure. Out of the original 9 that were available for it in my first year, all 9 of us could have automatically been qualified for the team that would have gone in my second year. But guess what? Some people said, nah, it didn't work out last time. We didn't raise half of the money. Only 4 of the original 9 got involved this second time around. But guess what? God was on our side this second time around, and we got to go for this conference. And I can tell you that I have a photo that I sent to Mami of everybody that was involved in that first round. And, you know, we have success stories from the faculty from that year. And that was where I met Mami as well. So that's where I got the opportunity to speak to you, because Mami was, that was where I met Mami in 2013. I was in Washington, D.C. and the, hey, Mami, I was in Washington, D.C. and it was a great opportunity for me. And I will tell you something, before that phase of my life, everybody who had inspired me to become something great, what would they do? They'll take me to the corner, or they'll sit me down somewhere and they'll start talking to me. It's very important to be successful, blah, 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 blah. But I'll tell you what, the most inspirational person I met at that phase of my life did not do this to me. He didn't sit me down to tell me a word. So at the end of the conference in Washington, my very close friend and I, Mami knows him, Wale, we stayed behind in Washington. And I have a cousin who lives in Washington who works at the World Bank. My cousin, who is about 12, 15 years older than me, so substantially older than I am. And we stayed with him in Washington, and he was working at the World Bank, like I said, and he used to live a walking distance from his office. He owned a nice Mercedes-Benz, he owned a power bike, but guess what? He used to walk to his office because he lived that close to his office. And as successful as this guy's story sounds, he went to the same secondary school I went to, which is the same secondary school that close friend of mine went to. So he brought us into his house, he sat us down, and he was like, make yourselves comfortable. He bought us some nice meal. And then first day, me and my friend were staring at ourselves in this guy's house like, my, oh my. It would be nice to live this guy's life in 10 years, I think. Like, wow. Look at the life this man owns a Benz, lives on K Street, and I kid you not, we'll go to shopping malls and we'll run into Africans, and Africans like to, you know, buddy and gel among themselves. So we'll run into Africans, they will ask us, oh, you're new here, because they could tell from our accent, where do you stay? And we're like, we stay on K Street. And all of them are like, you stay on K Street, blah, blah, blah. So we could tell that this guy was really doing well for himself. And this was somebody who went to the same secondary school as us. So, you know, we're like, no matter what your background was, if you could challenge yourself to achieve great things, you know, you could push yourself to the highest level. And I can tell you that that was the beginning of great things for me, because I started very terribly, but not only did I finish as part of the 250 that were recommended for the law school program in Nigeria, but I finished as part of the top 5% of my class, despite my very, very, you know, interesting beginning. So I would tell you that, you know, don't run from the challenge. Don't be discouraged when the start is not what you expect, because, you know, better is the end of the thing than the beginning, and focus on what God has set aside for you. And I can tell you that how I was able to stay inspired was by connecting with people, you know, connecting with great mentors, you know, mentoring other people, because we're not just blessed to be for ourselves, we're blessed to be a blessing unto others, give back. And, you know, this gives you perspective, because it encourages you to know that different people are going to go through what you're going through now. In the same way, some of you might be going through what I was going through back then. There's definitely people who have gone through what I'm going through now that seems like, oh, it's such a challenge, it's going to be the end of my journey, and it's going to be so bleak, but they overcame. So, you know, connect with people. You're not alone. Always remember that you're not alone. You have God, and of course, you know, you have God, but you have people. You have people that can be a reflection of God's love for you right in front of you. All you need to do sometimes is reach out. So I'll challenge you, always reach out, always communicate, always befriend people. But how did I get to Canada all the way from Nigeria? So make my story a bit quicker. After I graduated, I finished from the Nigerian law school in 2017. I finished then, and I was working at, you know, a top corporate law firm on the island in Nigeria. And one day I was driving home in traffic and I decided, this is not the end of my story. My story does not end in this country as of right now, as far as my law sojourn is concerned, because as sad as it is for me to admit, I would say that my nation and a lot of African countries have been on a downward spiral recently as far as development and infrastructure is concerned. And it's no joke to say that somebody who works as a cleaner in Canada has more dignity and financial reward than somebody who works as a lawyer, which is quite sad, but it's true. So I determined that, I'm happy for my parents who have succeeded in that country, but I feel like the current situation is not allowing young people to thrive. And I decided to relocate to Canada. To the glory of God, I applied to only one university because I developed interest in international trade and foreign investment. And I had friends that applied to 5, I had friends that applied to 6, and they didn't get admission into any. My close friend who is in Calgary now, that same close friend of mine, he and I were the only ones from my university who made it out the year we made it, because we've been the biblical presentation of when the Bible says iron sharpened iron, we've been challenging ourselves. Even he applied to 4, but I applied to only 1. And so admission started coming out. He applied earlier than I did. He got admission to the same university I got, and then he got admission to his own university. 3 weeks passed, I heard nothing. And then my mom came to my room and they're like, what's wrong with you? Why did you apply to only one university? What were you thinking? What did you drink? And I was like, you know what? Even I started thinking to myself, like, did I make a mistake? And lo and behold, I applied to only one university and I got admission to the University of Ottawa to study a master's in international trade and foreign investment law. And that was in 2018. I completed the program in 2019 and convocated in 2020. And, that was a very, very fantastic experience for me because it gave me time to bed myself into the Canadian work environment. I had already developed some work experience in Nigeria working at a law firm. So the transition for me was less daunting than somebody who was doing their first degree here without any connections whatsoever, because experience at the end of the day is what a lot of professionals look out for. And, I would say that I thank God, I'm grateful for the experience I had coming from Nigeria, as it has made things smoother for me. And I would say that I had some challenges even when I came here, and I'll share one of them with you professionally. So when I first came here, I was looking for a job, and a lot of immigrants start out with jobs at Walmart. They start out with jobs as sales associates in different organizations. That's the immigrant story. You have 2 degrees, but you're working at Walmart, any minimum wage, just to pay off your bills. It's something to put food on the table. And I kid you not, if you had offered me that Walmart job or that sales associate job in my 2nd month in Canada, I might have bitten your hands off and knelt down and given glory to God that, oh God, thank you, $14 an hour. To God be the glory. I applied for these jobs. I applied for the sales associate jobs. And I kid you not, even though it had more to do with not taking the best strategy than, but I also say it was the will of God, because I went to different stores. I used to walk around different stores, drop in my resume, and then the store manager would come and meet me outside. He would interview me, and then you have this expression throughout my interview. and as far as I'm concerned, if somebody who is interviewing you is doing like this, you're going to get that job, yeah? They'll finish with, I really like you, but I'm sorry, but you're too much for this job. I'm like, am I overselling myself? I try and cut out a lot of paragraphs from my story. They still conclude with the same thing. You're too much for this job. And I was like, God, what is going on? And guess what? They were right. God had better plans for me. Majority of the people who came in with me at the same time were doing jobs that were earning minimum wage. But as God will have it, my first job in Canada, I was earning almost triple minimum wage in my first job in Canada. How did I come about this? My supervisor, one of my professors pasted a job on the notice, pasted some assignment on the notice board, and I went to look at it. And then I saw something there that somebody was looking for somebody in a legal capacity. And of course, if you're an immigrant lawyer with no qualifications whatsoever in the legal sector in Canada, you won't think to apply for such a job because you're like, this guy is never going to call me. So I applied for this job in September because if you know me, I always take my chances. If it doesn't happen, you can't kill me with my no. I will sleep 8 hours like I always do and wake up the next day. So I applied for this job in September and I didn't hear anything. He didn't acknowledge receipts. He didn't even say thank you for sending the resume. And I forgot about the application. And the hit of my job search started actually in November, and I was getting quite desperate in December. And I kid you not, 2 days after Christmas, this guy sends me a message. Are you still interested in this job? I said, yes. Okay, we'll start next week. Just like that, I had a job in my field, and it was the beginning of great experiences for me, because getting a job in your field, and the person I was working for was Chinese. So whenever, till today, he writes references for me. And when somebody who is Chinese is writing references for somebody whose name is Timmy, they know it's not my uncle I was working for. So they're like, they know it's a legitimate experience, because they're like Xing Shangfu, or sorry for that joke, but definitely cannot be the uncle of somebody from West Africa. So, I'm very grateful. I worked for that man for 6 months, and then it opened, and you think, oh, that was the end of my challenges as a professional in Canada. It was not. More challenges were to come. 6 months after I got this opportunity, I did the work the man wanted, but it was a short-term thing, and that opportunity came to an end. So I had to take up a job at a bank at TD Bank, and it was an entry-level position, and I was delighted. I was happy to have it at the time. But in my 6th or 7th month, after 8 months working in that position, I had concluded my program, and then some challenges were coming up there where something security-related arose, and I had to resign from that position in order to make sure, I kept my smooth record and for my mental health. So I was jobless again. And like, with everything that has happened, this guy is jobless again? Wow. And guess what happened? Another position in a different bank, courtesy of, my network, Mame, arose, and I was able to move 2 levels higher than what I was so desperate to hold on to. And I can tell you that till today, this happened over a year ago. Till today, there are people with the same qualifications as me who are still in that old position. Why? Because, they got comfortable there. Things sort of worked out better for them. But, sometimes God pushes you into your testimony by a challenging circumstance. Because if I had gotten comfortable in that position and things worked out for me and I didn't have to resign, I might still have been there. But God opened the door for me where I was able to move 2 positions ahead because of a challenging circumstance. And, now I've even moved on further. I'm back in my field, thank God. I've not completed my transitioning. I'm not practicing, but I'm back working at a law firm. And as of January this year, I now work as a senior legal assistant at a law firm where, I'm basically functioning as a lawyer, but the only thing is my name does not go on the document because I'm not legally allowed to represent you. But it's been an exciting experience for me so far, my 3-year journey as an immigrant. And I know that, God has more for me. But what I would end with is that don't run from the challenge, run to it, run with confidence, run knowing that, if God be for you, who can be against you? And be as strategic as possible. For life is full of challenges. And if you run from challenge, one of my favorite Bible verses that I like to say to my friends, and they're like, this guy, you're such a hard person, is, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is weak. I think it's in Proverbs. I can't remember what specific book, but it says, if you faint, it's, because I feel like, with all due respect to the young people in this, to the teenagers and the very young people in this group chat, I feel like, you can get into a comfort situation where you're overly coddled and you don't want to get out of your comfort zone. You always want to do what is comfortable. You always want to do what is convenient. You don't want to challenge yourself. I find a lot of people slipping down that slope. You might have the brains to become a surgeon, but I'm sure, the 2 people in the medical field that have shared, Dr. Isaac and Dr. Sonia as well, or not Sonia as well, they've shared their challenging days with you. And it might have been more convenient to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to, with all due respect to people that run YouTube channels and everything, it might have been more convenient for them to just say, I'm going to quit, I'm going to start a YouTube channel in my dad's basement, and let's hope for one of my posts to take off one day. But how about doing the more challenging thing and, taking up something that might set the world on fire? I'm not trying to belittle anybody's profession. I told you I wanted to be a farmer. So, and I respect all the farmers and everything. I respect everybody. I think everybody's hustle is valid. But I feel like today people need to challenge themselves and people need to rise up to the challenge and know that life is not always convenient. The sea will not always be calm, but you should trust in God, trust in the Lord in all your ways, lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will straighten your path and he will lead you aright and all that. So I would say, put your faith in God, trust in God at all times. Make sure you have the right people around you. I'm very, very grateful for my friends because, you know, if I start going on, mommy is aware of my friends, and she's always like, "Oh, you guys." If I start going on about my friends, you would realize that, you know, I'm maybe not as big as I've made myself to seem, because, you know, I'm surrounded by people who have been president of quite a number of organizations. And in university, we had a name the people in my university gave us, not that we gave ourselves. We're called the Power Circle, because I was the vice president of my university's debate society. My closest friend in Calgary I spoke to you about, he was the president of my university's law student society. We were all presidents of one organization, leaders of one organization. I started different organizations, and, you know, we're men of vision. So I would challenge you that get out of your comfort zone and get out of the company of people who want to stay in that comfort zone, because they won't push you. You know, iron sharpened iron. Always make sure you're surrounded by people who are on fire, who are like, when you finish speaking to them, you go, wow, and you start bringing out your notepad, you start typing up this great thing, you know, you start typing about this new planet that you heard about that you want to discover. You start typing about this new profession. You start typing about cryptocurrency or something interesting that you want to do that, you know, is challenging and sets people's minds on fire. So that will be my challenge for you. Trust in God always. Keep the right people around you. And like Mami said, listen to your spiritual leaders, listen to the people that fill your spirit, and listen to people that set your soul on fire. So thank you very much. And I'm very delighted to be here. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That's just amazing. Thank you so much, Timmy. I like the stories. I like how you wove it through and the lessons that we all should learn. Now, for everyone that is on this chat, I want to challenge you. There's all the stories that have been shared. Amazing, amazing. Don't drop off yet. There's still more to come. I'm just going to tell you what we're going to talk about next, okay? And then we'll wrap up very soon. We're going to go into breakout rooms, 2 breakout rooms, okay? One room is going to talk about program and course selection or building relationship with professors and guidance counselors, extracurricular stuff. I mean, you heard Timmy talking about how he's president and vice president and staff of various associations in school. So they're going to discuss how can you select your programs or your courses? How do you build relationship with professors? That'll be one breakout room. And then the other breakout room is going to talk about student groups and skills, career path, and job hunt. Okay, these are soft skills that you absolutely need to succeed in your career path. Now, how we're going to do it, I'm just going to randomly put you into a group, okay? You would meet with the presenters here. They're going to split themselves into 2. So half of them will be in one group, the other half will be in the other group. They'll talk for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to swap the presenters. And so you will have a bit of what each one has to say, okay? So don't worry about which room you end up in. You will, in the end, hear each of them. And this is intended to be interactive in this breakout time. So I would really encourage you to hold on. Don't drop out yet. I just want to pass out one very quick announcement. LWAG Youth, we are organizing an amazing program next week, Friday. Who's your Valentine? You know, Valentine is just around the corner, right? And we're inviting all of you to this program. This is going to be live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So join us February 12th at 8 p.m. streaming on YouTube. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be amazing. Your life will not be the same. All right. Thank you for being on our Career Expo. Right now, we're going to open the breakout rooms and then begin our conversation. All right. So those of you that remain in this main room, we are going to have Sonia, Dr. Albert, and Evelyn facilitate this room. I am going to get myself off of the screen. and get Sonia and Evelyn to talk.
You're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yep. Thanks, Evelyn. Thanks for turning your video on. I was just going to ask that you all turn your videos on if you can. So, Sonia, yep. Thank you. And Albert, I don't know if he might be busy, but Irene and Sonia, over to you.
So hi, everyone. Yeah, so as Pastor Cyril mentioned, this group will be talking about the academic experience. So how do you select programs, courses, what are electives, and building relationships, whether it's with your professors, your advisors, or even in the workplace. Yeah, Sonia, do you want to start or should I start?
No, you can start.
Okay, well, let me even just put those things that we kind of discussed on the screen. So yeah, we just wanted to speak on the importance of program and course selection. Like for me, it's really, for me, I went into life sciences, but in retrospect, I feel like I could have done another program. Like I mentioned, I was really interested in the social sciences, environmental sciences. And so had I understood what social or environmental health meant in the context of health, I probably would have chosen that program. And the same thing with courses. Had I understood what I was getting out of the courses, I probably wouldn't have just randomly took random courses. For example, I took a course on water, which didn't really help my GPA, but it also didn't align with my interests. It was just because people were saying, take this course, so I took it. So we want to emphasize the importance of like being strategic and being intentional about the programs you choose and the courses you select. Not to just take courses because everyone says it's easy, because for you it may not be that way, and it may not align with your interest and your purpose. So it's really important to be critical of that.
And just to add to that, there's lots of electives, and the school kind of leaves it up to you to pick your own. And like Irene said, you might be focused on courses that your friends around you or classmates around you might tell you it's easy to bring up your GPA, but don't let that be your focus, because if that becomes your focus, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities of electives that can actually help build your understanding of the program you're in, or electives that can help you move further ahead in terms of if you want to add a minor or a major. So you have to like kind of look at all of that. But even if you don't want to add a minor or a major to your program that you're doing, focus on electives that will help build you up for the future.
Yeah, and just for clarity, so usually when you're in a program, you have required courses. So for me in life science, my required courses was the chemistry, physics, the sciences, and electives are courses that are not necessarily in your program. They could just be across all programs in the university. So again, if you have interest in like music or dance or, you know, other things that are not necessarily aligned with your interests, you really tap into your electives and take advantage of that. And I didn't, like Sonia mentioned, you don't necessarily need to declare a major or minor. Sometimes it just happens by itself. So I was taking all these psychology courses. I didn't realize I was working towards a minor. But when I was graduating, my advisor said, you took 10 psychology courses and you just need 8 to declare a minor. So you just end up falling into it. You might end up just falling into it if you end up being focused in the type of electives that you take. Yeah, so the next thing we want to touch upon was the extracurriculars. Wait, are we switching?
I know it was fun. I was wondering the same too. No, I don't think so. I don't think we're switching.
And then the other thing we want to bring up is the importance of extracurricular activities. So in my presentation, I spoke to a few that I've been involved in. And for me, it was really critical to help decide what pathway I want to take and decide my interest. Because like I mentioned, I was in a very broad program in life sciences. I didn't really know where my heart was. But as I got more involved in community, not just in like community-based extracurriculars, but things like academic-focused extracurriculars, it really helped me put into practice what I was learning, and that helped me be more directed in my pathway. But I know Sonia had a different experience as well.
Yeah, for me, my focus was on just my program alone because it was very heavy. And when it gets to clinicals and clinical hours, it's totally different. So I didn't have any addition to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so nursing is a quite specific program. So I can imagine not really having an intensive. So I imagine not really having the capacity to be involved. So it really depends on your programming, but I would encourage you to get involved. Especially every school, you usually have a global department. So again, I really encourage global experiences. It helps you shift your perspective, and it helps you see life and the world through a different lens, which could help, especially help you stand out in the path that you choose. And the last thing we wanted to touch upon was building relationships and the importance of that. I know going to college, university could be quite intimidating, especially speaking to professors. Like I went from a classroom with predominantly Black people and teachers that were very relatable to a lecture hall of 400 people and professors that like I did not connect with. So it was really intimidating, and that had an impact on my performance and how well I did. So I learned later on that it's really important to build relationships. Like your professors tend to have office hours. Use those office hours and don't be intimidated by them, because that's the time they put in place for you to get to know them and for them to support you. Again, with TAs, your teaching assistants, your academic advisors, those are very critical. I didn't build relationships with my academic advisors in the beginning. And so I was struggling with the courses I was taking. And again, I was listening to people around me, what was online, and it wasn't beneficial to me. And so later on, as I was speaking to academic advisors and speaking to different types, because sometimes one will tell you one thing, but it may not necessarily be the only option for you. So it's very important to build relationships with different people in the institution, because it can give you different perspectives and different options depending on those relationships that you have. And yeah, do you want to add on to that?
Does anyone has a question for us?
And we posed this discussion question just in general, like if you guys are thinking about your career pathway, what are you thinking about? Are you experiencing any challenges? Sometimes, like I know Mom had mentioned about your parents kind of influencing your journey. Are you guys experiencing that challenge? Type it in the chat. Do you guys have any questions in general based on what Sonia and I shared, or just in general when it comes to after high school life? I can't find the... No questions?
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
Pastor Cyril, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, actually, I do have a question to ask. I know that in your career paths, particularly Black young people trying to get into the higher path of a career, like you yourself, Sonia, trying to get into nursing. I've heard stories of guidance counselors discouraging you, professors trying to get you to fail and making you not to succeed, and so forth, just because of your race. Did you face something like that, and how did you overcome it?
Yes, actually. In high school, I had a one teacher that was really great. She was very nice to all students of all colors or background. And I was very good at science and biology. So when I told the teacher that my dad wants me to get into nursing, she actually encouraged it and said, yeah, it will be good for me because I'm strong in science and biology versus math. And I was also very strong in English. So that was very motivating. But what actually in university at Ryerson, it was completely different. It was very hard and even harder for people of color. I was sharing with Irene last night about one of my experiences towards my final year. And I think Pastor Cyril, you might remember, I came to you for prayer support because I was on the verge of being like suspended. And that was because I had this lady, white teacher that accused me of plagiarism with one of my essays just because I wrote it well. And she was trying to get me suspended fail me from the course or potentially like suspension. And it was very stressful, very hard, and a lot of prayers and a lot of tears. And when I approached after I sought your support in prayer, and also like I fasted, and went to see the dean, and they had me, they reviewed the paper. And after they reviewed the paper and asked me a few questions of my sources and all the other stuff, they realized that I was not at no fault. So it was very, very traumatizing for me to the point that I never wanted to step a foot in a classroom ever again. And towards the end of that class, after I was exonerated, she comes to me telling me that I'm a very good and bright student and that she wants to write a reference letter for me to go do my master's. But this was a perfect example of letting a challenge kind of like break me, and I didn't want to go back to school, which it's been okay because all the experiences I've had on the way, I think have made me stronger. And I have favor with, like, I will say 1 out of 2 patients or everybody that I meet. And there wasn't a single week that I'll come home from Mount Sinai that I don't have a gift from a patient. And right now, like, all the compliments I keep getting is to go into teaching. They're like, Sonia, you need to teach. So they keep throwing new hires and students at me to mentor at work. So I plan to go back to school once my kids are a bit older, 4 little kids. And right now, I'm actually thinking about either diverting into medicine or still staying in nursing, but in a different area in nursing, not so much in obstetrics. So it's something that I'm praying about and keeping looking up in areas that I can expand so far. But yeah, it's been challenging. You can either make challenges, and when you're young, stress is stress. No matter how much people say, oh, we're gonna help you in prayer, or we're here to support you, or don't worry, it will pass. But when it hits you, it hits you hard, and it only takes the grace of God and like everybody has been saying, being surrounded by a good group where the friends and group I had at church has been my backbone right from since I've been in Canada. So yes, it's been a journey.
Wow. Wow. No, that's amazing. And I like how you put it, that these challenges, you would face them, but you don't let it break you. You kind of bounce back. And I like how you kept God in it. And I'd really challenge all of you to do the same. God has your best interest at heart. He will make you sail through every challenge. There is one question here, but our time is up still. Irene, if you can take this question very quickly for us. What do I do if my parents are still insisting on me doing a particular course in school while my interest is different? Please help me out.
So I guess what I would say is, I think it's important to get your parents to understand your interest and maybe doing some research around what your interest means in terms of a job opportunity, in terms of what your academic journey looks like. So after you do maybe your undergrad, what does the next steps look like after that program that aligns with your interests? And also when you do look at those jobs, I feel like a lot of our parents, they think we should take certain positions in terms of like your salary, how much you'll make, so that you could be able to be, you can survive essentially. So maybe trying to put numbers beside, like if I do follow this path, this is how much I could potentially make, and providing examples of people who inspire you in that field and showing how they're successful. I think sometimes our parents, they just don't know the different career pathways. They just only know like the typical one. So we need to just educate them more about what's happening so that they could better understand. Because my parents don't know what sustainability management was. They wanted me to go into medicine, but I had to break it down and explain it. And then, they understood, and they support me. So it's just about educating them and providing facts as to how you could be successful in that path.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Just hold on tight. I'm going to switch the speakers. And so we'll have Mami and Timmy to take us through.
Hey, never mind. Irene, I think you're going to switch you guys.
Irene, you should see a notice pop up to join the room. Did you see it yet?
No.
Okay. Try that again.
Okay, I think.
All right, sorry everyone. I'm just going to have to reassign us again. Just give me a minute here, okay? Thank you for your patience.
Okay, I think we're in the right room now. But I see the same people that we had in our room. It's okay, it's fine. I think we have similar people from our old room. I know that we're very crunched with time right now. So,
hang on, Mommy, is that the case?
Yeah, there's some people in my room that were in the other.
Yeah, room 1 as well, the first time.
Okay, just give me a minute. Let me swap you out.
Or Pastor Cyril,
Right.
please don't.
Actually, you go ahead.
Pastor Cyril, because of the time constraint, right?
Right, right.
Just so that you don't stress yourself, we can all go back to the main room. If anyone has any questions, let them ask, and then
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Let's go ahead. Thank you.
No problem. I see myself. Okay, we're just gonna wait. Okay, so while we're still dealing with the technical stuff, does anyone have any questions that were sort of on your mind that you wanted to ask? You could feel free to share in the chat, and then Timmy and I could.
I think they were asking for our contact at some point. So I'm just going to type my email address into the chat. If anybody wants to shoot me any email inquiries, please feel free to do so.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute your mic. And yeah, inquire or just post it in the chat, and don't be shy, please. This question is from Mommy. How would you manage? Sorry.
You all got questions on here, man.
How will you manage love life in your busy career? Hey, wow. Let me drink water first before I answer this one.
That is a very interesting.
You sent somebody to ask me that question. Eh?
I don't know nothing about that, Mommy. No, probably they're not talking about you, Mommy. They're talking about themselves. So tackle the question from that perspective.
Life, no me will be. Hey. Wow. Please give me, wow. Timmy, I think you should take this one, and then I'm gonna ponder on it, and then I will. Oh, please, it's your personal life I'm talking about. Pastor Cyril.
All right. So I think I will take that question.
Yes.
Let me answer that question. How do you manage your love life and then your academic life? Okay, so there needs to be a balance in school. If you're a student, particularly if you're a teenager, I personally will not recommend that you get yourself entangled with relationships and whatever whilst you are in high school. Not at all. You're not ready. You're just not ready at all for that kind of relationship things. You want to focus on your career path. You want to figure things out. Get on your career path, because marriage is way down the road, right? And you don't want to be sharing your heart around before you end up with the one. So it's really important you focus. So how do you manage it? Very easy. You put your love life on hold. Very easy. Put that on hold. Focus on your studies. Get through. I would say you worry about maybe relationships at all if you want to worry about it whilst you're in school, not until later in your about maybe final years in university, right? That is if you are thinking of getting married right after university. But if you're not thinking of getting married right after university, you're thinking of doing your master's and whatever, then you might as well know how you would juggle that and move that on so it doesn't interfere with your academic life. Reason I say this is because if things don't pan out well, it can greatly affect your academic pursuit, right? And I've seen countless stories of people having messed up great opportunities just because they broke up a relationship, which was bound to break up because you got in with very little counsel when you were just young and immature. So that would be my personal counsel. I don't know what you would add to it, Timmy or Mami.
Well, as far as relationships are concerned, I would definitely say I agree with you that, there's, and it goes again to rebellion and presumptions, but he's definitely right. There's a rebellious spirit that can enter teenagers sometimes where, they're like, why are people saying I'm not ready for this? I feel ready. But if for years consistently, the theory has been developed that it's at a certain age you have the maturity level to handle certain interactions, then everybody can be wrong about these kind of things. I know from the age of 12, your mom probably stops telling you you're not a baby anymore. You're not a baby anymore. You're a baby till you're like 21. If I'm being honest with you, even after 21, I'm still, Mommy is still her mom's baby. I'm forever. So in a sense, you're forever somebody's baby. In a sense, so in a sense, you're not as mature as you think you are, and because of that, you want to be wise and patient. And so I would advise that you take your time with these kind of things and prioritize. Your number one priority should be things that are permanent. Your academic performance, permanent. You can switch it up. If you finish with the worst degree, you can get another degree and change it. But the truth is, you've wasted time. Or you always have to share it the way Mommy has shared it, that it was a disaster at first. Why? Because you didn't. That record is always going to be there. There's always going to be that record. So when you're getting involved with things that are of permanent record, that should be your immediate priority. That should be what takes all your concern, because God knows how many stories of things that are not permanent that you might get involved with. And it's only you that will know. Mommy might have her stories, I'll have my own stories, but those things, even we ourselves, we've forgotten. Sometimes your friend is talking to you about, oh, how is Lagbaja? How is Temedu? And you're like, who's Lagbaja? Who is Mrs. A? Who's Mrs. B? And like, oh, that's. So those things, they're temporary, they're fleeting, and they should not be your immediate priority. Your immediate priority should be what the world would always know about you and what you always project. And I would say that I agree with him in that when you're mature, when you're at a certain age, when you're coming to the end of your program, where you know for certain that this is what your record is going to be, where, there's a point in your final year where, barring anything, you're unshakable. Then you can make time for other things, but your immediate priority should be your permanent record. That's what I'll say.
I think I've been staring at the question for so long and trying to ponder over it, but I think I finally have an answer. Personally, for me, being young and commencing my career, there is two things that really stand out to me on what I want in my partner. That is an understanding man and a man that is supportive. Because having a busy career life, as you have rightfully said, I need a man who understands that you know what, I love you with all my heart and all my soul. I'm not prioritizing my work over you, but I also need you to understand the kind of work I do and also support me along the way. I am all about support. Like, I don't ask for money. I don't ask for anything. All I ask is support. So for me, managing my love life and my busy career would not be difficult as long as my partner is understanding and supportive. So.
Very well said. Great. Over to you, Mami and Timmy. Yeah. You run the show in this group. For
yeah, so thank you for your, I think right now, if anyone has any further questions, because right now we are just considering the time and we don't want to, because we had a lot to say. So if anyone has any questions, and Dan also, thank you for that question. I think it was very thought-provoking, although it caught me off guard, but these are the kind of things that is the reality of our lives, right? We're going to spend the rest of our lives with spouses. We're not going to be on island forever. So feel free to open up and ask any questions that are on your mind. And feel free to type it in the chat box too if you're shy to speak. Okay, so since we're still waiting for questions to come up, okay, so Natalie is saying that she's curious if any of you have used or are interested to use your career with regards to dismantling systems of oppression given the past year. Okay, I'll go because that's literally what I do. As a policy analyst, I work with the mental health for Black Canadians. And what I basically do is I work with policies and organizations and reports to dismantle systemic racism and oppressions in our system. So basically, I am in that career currently. And one of my accomplishments whilst being there for maybe the last 6 months was to be able to review federal policies and see how they address systemic racism and oppression and structural racism within our communities. So I ransacked through the federal policies, saw how these policies align with our motto, or I'll say our mission, and we sort of presented that to the senior management at the Public Health Agency of Canada, who then suggested solutions that we can use to dismantle systemic oppression and structural institutional racism and so on. So one of the solutions we came up with was to have a training on racial health equity. So all our staff were going to be trained on racial health equity, how to address microaggressions, to mention but a few. So basically, my work has to do with racism being a determinant of health and seeing how racism ideally impacts our overall health outcome. So thank you for that question, Natalie.
All right. Thank you, Natalie. And I would say that from my own part, well, my profession is, based on justice. So of course, in every opportunity that I get, I try to, every time I interact with the authorities and every time I'm in a position to shape policy and everything, I make sure that I'm trying to plead the case of the weaker man. And, to be very honest with you, I've had more opportunity to do that when I was in Nigeria, where I was called to the bar and I had more access to such decision taking. But at my current level, I try to do it at a community-based level, and I'm hoping for progression in my career to the level where I'm interacting again with people who are directly able to change, or I am myself in a position directly able to change these kind of policies. But my biggest contribution right now would be true awareness, and by being an outstanding ambassador. Because it shows that if you give people who are ordinarily in the oppressed category an opportunity and they perform well, sometimes your work speaks for you, and they try to say that, okay, if this is the trend alongside this kind of people, then let's give more of them an opportunity. So I try to make sure my testimony is my performance as well. So I would say that that's what I'm doing so far. Any more questions?
No questions. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. Please keep your questions coming. Don't be shy. Like, we're here to answer all your questions.
Careful with questions now.
I know. Feel free. Feel comfortable.
I have a question.
Yes. So.
I do have a question. So you mentioned, Timmy, when you were talking, how that in your first year, you didn't do so well.
Mm-hmm.
And Mommy as well, you failed. Epic. I remember.
Failure, first 2 years.
First 2 years. What do you have to say to those students who are listening, who may have failed and think, no, school is not for me. This is not mine. Like, they've lost all hope of having to bounce back. What do you have to tell them? So you can take this. You've all walked that path.
I will start on this one. I would say that, always remember that the Bible verse that says better is the end of a thing than the beginning. And as long as you're alive, your story is not over. As long as you're alive, your story is not over. Because, sometimes look at Mame, for example, where she was talking about me. I didn't have to leave my program, but she had to leave the program. So in a sense, there was an end. Like, when I say better is the end of the thing, but in a sense, that program was over, so there was the end. So what am I talking about again? But as long as you're alive, when I say the end, as long as you're alive, your story is not over. You have the opportunity to give it a new dimension and give it a new perspective. So that will be my challenge, to know that if you're currently in a dark period, the change starts with you. Mami and I can talk from now till 9 a.m. tomorrow. Everybody can try to inspire you. I can send you 700 Bible verses. I can pray for you. But you have to do but you have to do the work. You have to do the work. You have to be aware that, the Bible says that as long as the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest time shall not cease.
Amen.
So what seeds are you sowing? What seeds are you sowing? Because, not to start dropping African proverbs for you people again, but you can't sow corn and reap mango, as we say in Nigeria. You cannot sow corn and reap mango. When I was not performing well, at that phase in my life, if my parents asked me, was I putting in the effort? I would lie and say, yes, I was putting in the effort, blah, blah, blah. But in all sincerity, was I really putting the effort? I was putting in mediocre effort, which is why I did not get Fs. I did not get carryover. I just got performances that were underwhelming. So if you put mediocre effort, you reap mediocre performance. That's the truth. If you put extraordinary effort, you reap extraordinary results. So look at you look at yourself, examine yourself, because we can talk from now till tomorrow, like I said, but examine yourself. What seeds are you sowing? How much effort? How are you applying yourself to the plow? If you're not pleased with the result, if you're not pleased with the performance, you need to reevaluate the effort. You need to reevaluate your strategy and come up. They say only a fool does the same thing 500 times and expects a different result. You need a change of strategy. You need a change of route. You need a change of surrounding. I'm about to share with you a brief story just before I move it on to Mami. Something that I did that was drastic during that phase of my life. And it's not a very complimentary thing, but I'm very, very proud of it. So when I was in year one, I had a group of people I used to move around with who were in the same program as me. And guess what? When our results came, all of us got the same kind of results. Maybe 2 of them were 2 points ahead of me, 2 bits ahead of me, and 3 of them were a little bit lower than I was. But we all had the same average. And I determined that, I was going to change things. But the kind of people I surrounded myself with, I was also going to change. I pulled myself away from that circle and I moved into a different circle. 2 years after this happened, a number of them used to say very, very uncomplimentary things to my face. That, oh, I'm a glory chaser, I abandoned them. And I wish them well. I tried my best to assist them. I tried my best to guide them. But it comes a time where you have to decide that people are holding you back. People are dragging you back. And if you stay with them, you will drown. There comes a time where you have to make that kind of difficult decision where the people you are surrounding yourself with are constituting a hindrance and they're going to make you drown. And you have to make drastic decisions to your surrounding. So like I said, make changes. And I'm very pleased with the results I saw from the changes I made. I will always encourage you, don't stay in the same cycle, make changes and you will see results. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Timmy has said it all, but with somebody who has failed multiple times in my life, I think what I would say to you is that failure is not the end. Failure is actually part of life. Like you cannot run from it. It will come. But what matters is how resilient you are. What matters is your approach to addressing failure. I thought that my first 2 years of me failing my health science course was the end of the world. Little did I know that it was God's plan of redirecting me into where He wanted me to be. So failure can be a redirection. It can be a point where maybe you're not where you need to be and you need to fail to move out of where God has not positioned you to be. So I just want to use this as an encouragement for everyone that if currently you're failing your courses, it's not the end of the world. Don't sometimes I want my tree to come out, but I'm considerate of the environment. Don't beat yourself up. Try to do the best you can by contacting either your professors or your career advisors. Speak to them and say, hey, I am struggling. I need help. You know, there's nothing wrong in seeking help. Seek help. There are people positioned around you to help you. So seek that help. And everything will fall into place. I mean, as I said, failure is not the end. I cannot count the number of times I've failed, but fall 7, rise 8. So it's all part of life. You embrace it, it makes you stronger, and you move on. Yeah. Is Mr. Cyril still around? Oh yeah, he is. Okay. Anyone have any other questions?
Any more questions, guys?
I am still around, and I do have a question. I have one more question.
Somebody has a... Oh, okay, never mind.
Sorry, I am in 2 rooms at the same time. My apologies. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so my question is, the discipline for time management. I deal with the youth, and I know that is one big challenge, especially now with COVID and everything is online. Easily their time just flies away and it's like, oh, I have 2 assignments due and I haven't even started, right? How have you developed that discipline, especially as a young, I mean, when you were young, right? You know the challenges you faced. I mean, now you're grown-ups, you're old, so I'm sure you've developed way much more, but I want to talk from the perspective of when you were teens. How do we develop that time management skill?
Okay, I'll take this. To be honest with you, Pastor Cyril, I am still learning to manage my time. As most of you know, I have 20 things on my plate, and sometimes it's a lot. So I will not come here and pretend like I'm the biggest time manager that you've ever seen in your life. No, I keep it 100% real. There are days where I procrastinate. There are days when I'm not able to manage my time. Nonetheless, what has helped me in my time management is my manual calendar. So I have my software calendar on my phone, like with my iCloud and my Google Calendar, but I have this manual calendar. So as you can see, I literally write every single thing down, and it helps me because when I see it, I'm like, okay, I have this career expo today at 7:30. I have this doing at this time. So having it manually written down in your face also really, really helps. And for me, it has helped me with my time management, helped me with booking people for my clients for my business, helped me with my speaking engagements and so on. So for me, I would say I got this at Chapters Indigo. Having something manual in front of you, like a planner or a journal, has been helpful to manage my time. And also I set alarms. Oh my God, the biggest lie you can ever tell yourself is you will remember. Sometimes I set alarms just to help me to remember things I have to do and sort of like strategize my time as well. So.
All right. So thank you for the honesty, Mame, because honestly, when you asked this question, I smiled. I think it's a lifelong thing for people to know how to balance themselves, and something I'm also working as well with myself on. I would say that I don't keep a physical calendar like Mame, but I definitely will encourage you to toe that path, because for me, my own approach works for me, but it runs its own risk. I would say priorities is what helps me. Priorities is what helps me in that I try to make sure I'm not over capacity, because I have a friend who I learn a lot from, and I find that I try to make sure I don't end up in similar situations where I'm spreading myself too thin. Because I have a friend who, for example, has the best intentions for everyone and things like that. And because of that, he spreads himself and spreads himself and spreads himself. And hello? Okay. So he has good intentions, but because of too much commitment, he's over capacity and he spreads himself too thin. So I've learned from his experience where this has been going on, an ongoing situation in his life, to make sure I am not over capacity. I challenge myself. I, try and push my limits, but I walk within them as far as time frame is concerned, because one limit I can't control is that a day is 24 hours. No matter how much I can say, fight your challenges, fight your limits, there's only so much I can do. I can't decide to tell you that my own, hello, can you hear me? Okay. I can't decide to tell you that my own day is 30 hours and I don't care what the rest of the world says. So therefore, if you book me for an appointment for 7 p.m., I will say, forget 7 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. to me time is what I'm operating with. And that can make a mess for you. So I would say prioritize, make sure you're not over capacity, understand your limits, and that'll be my two challenges. Your priorities. Priorities is a word I've probably said 100 times on this call. But if you know what your priorities are, nobody needs to inspire you or excite you about your priorities. Take, for example, if you were the president of an organization and the start and end of that organization rose and fell on you, in the first place, you were the one that booked the appointments that you're talking about. So you're the one that has to be encouraging other people to make sure they don't forget this day. It's pretty difficult to forget such a day. So I would say, make sure the things that you get involved with are things that are of a priority to you, and you also note them down and you plan for them to accommodate them within your schedule so that you're not over capacity, because a lot of us run this risk. Make sure you're prioritizing and make sure you're not over capacity. Thank you.
Wow. Very well answered. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I cannot believe how far we have come. Just give me a minute here. All right. Thank you. This has been an amazing time. I am so thankful that I have all my amazing speakers right here on the screen. I very, very thankful to every one of you for making the time for this career expo. I was eavesdropping in the different rooms as we were going on, and some of the questions that were coming up, I was like, whoa, I wish we had more time. But thank you to the audience. I'm sure you've learned something. This is the beginning of our Career Expo journey. We will be having more like this and meeting with great minds like you've seen today. Our next Career Expo is going to be next month, March 19th. But look out for our announcements coming in. Before we wrap up, I just want each one to give just one last word, okay? Just one last word. You weren't ready for this, but think in your mind. It could be a sentence, it could be 2 sentences, but just 30-second last words from you. Where do we start? Let me start with Irene.
I knew you were going to say my name. But I guess my last word, just kind of know that you guys are, you know, your ancestors' wildest dreams. So dream big, and you can kind of go for, you can achieve anything if you just dream it, and work hard, because hard work is what's required to achieve those dreams. So yeah, just continue to work hard and continue to reach out for support when you need it. For me, it took me so long to reach out for support, and I know it could be hard to do so. So I would say always never feel I get bad to ask for support, and yeah, continue to dream big.
Wow, awesome. Thank you. Let me go to Timmy, and then I'll come to Sonia, and Albert and Mommy will give us a last word.
All right, thank you once again for having me, and I hope we were all able to pick up something from the many things that we've said today. My last words to you would be, again, that don't run from the challenge. Don't always run from the challenge. Make sure you pick your fights, because sometimes you see people picking fights that are not their business because they said, oh, Timmy said we should run to the fight. So, you know, they want to they want to get involved in things that don't concern them. No, that's not what I mean. Be strategic about what you're doing. Pick your battles, but be aware that you cannot progress in life without these battles. And once you've decided to pick this battle, go with God, go with your full fire, and you know, God will strengthen you. And if it's your destiny, you will overcome. But there's no other way to find out unless you get into the ring and fight. So don't run from the challenge. Run towards your own challenge, not, you know, I think I need to personalize it. So the first question to ask, is this challenge mine? Because sometimes people get lost in that web of, you know, challenges that are not their business. So don't run from your own challenge, run to your challenge, face your challenges with God, face your challenges with your full force, and make sure you surround yourself with firelighters so that when your battery is running low and when your fire is running dim, you have people to plug to, you have, you know, a great community, you have people that push you all the way. And as I always say, go with God, and God will not fail you because he's never failed. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Timmy. Now let's come to Sonia.
Hi. The little I'm gonna add, I'm gonna read it out because it's actually a song that I learned back in Ghana as a child, and it has stayed with me ever since. And it reads, "He that is down needs fear no fall. He that has no pride. He that is ever humble shall have God to be his guide." And humility goes a long way. Good to be shy, or you don't want to get involved with stuff around you, but let your passion lead you. Be humble, pray always, seek God first in all your direction, and always pray. My prayer always that I learned from church as a youth was that, God, anybody that is in my life that will not benefit me, take them away from my life, move them out, and bring in my way people that will help me and encourage me and guide me. And God has never failed me in that direction, in bringing people my way. People even helping me identify potentials and gifts that I have that I never even thought of, that it was a gift. So that's the little that I'll leave with you. Focus, don't be afraid, because God is with you as long as you humble yourself and stay with God. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Sonia. Doc, thank you for staying with us, Doc. I really, really appreciate that. But what last words do you have for the team here? You're on mute, Doc.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for giving us the opportunity to share our stories with you. And I hope that we've found a way to inspire you. I think if you've listened to everybody talk today, some of which I was here and I'm impressed by, the theme is that let nobody, no woman or man, tell you that you cannot do something that you want to do. If you set your mind to it, it is possible. You have been born in a place where the opportunities are limitless. You just need to reach and grab it. And the only way you can do that is to discipline yourself, like discipline, and know that you can do it. Nothing comes cheap, like Timmy said. It's a fight. You just have to fight it, and you just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and you can make it, and you can do it. And with the support around you, and people like us on this Zoom today, reach out to us, talk to us. We're here. We can help you. We can open some doors for you. We get to a certain place like this, and we know people. Just don't be shy. Just reach out, and we'll be able to help you out to get there. That's all I have to say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doc. Very well said. Mommy, can you wrap it all up for us? And then I'll pray to close it.
Okay, first of all, I just wanted to say, a big thank you to you, Pastor Cyril, to Living Word Assemblies of God, to your excellent youth team who have put together and worked tirelessly, to put together this amazing Career Expo. I believe everyone has said everything and summarized it perfectly, but I would also envelope it with Matthew 6:33, which is seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added unto thee. I know we're chasing after the careers, we're chasing after the degrees, but put God first and those things will follow you. Thank you.
Put God first and those things would follow you. Very well said. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you staying on to the end. Apologies for going over the time, but worth every minute of it. You will thank us someday. Let us pray. Father, we thank you that we've been able to have these very meaningful conversations. Your word says that before we were a clot of blood in our mother's womb, you knew us and you called us by name. I have no doubt everyone hearing us, those in the Zoom call, those watching on YouTube, that you have a purpose and a plan for them. I pray that you will guide us by your Spirit and help us to reach on and press on, never to give up, to become all that you have always intended for us to be. Help us, Lord. Where we are fallen, raise us up, rejuvenate us, help us to revive our zeal to pursue and to excel. I thank you, Lord. If there's any on this call that do not know you, I pray that, Lord, you would reveal yourself and help to encounter you. In the name of Jesus, thank you for hearing us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
God richly bless all of you. And like I said, I want to invite you all to our Valentine. Who is your Valentine? Next week, February 12th at 8 p.m. Don't miss out. Be a part of this live stream on our YouTube channel. It's going to be amazing. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It's been myself here, Cyril, together with the team that I'm working with, presenting to you our Career Expo. God bless you. And thank you, amazing team. God really, really bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Love you all.